Hello. Welcome back to Let's Talk Ray Bradbury. If you have not subscribed to our channel, please do. That would be much appreciated. We are now over 1,100 subscribers, and we are hoping to continue to grow this over the coming weeks and months. So here on Let's Talk Ray Bradbury, I do short story reviews of the works of Ray Bradbury. I'm reviewing a collection of 100 stories, and we are somewhere around 35 left to go at this point. But today's story is from 1953, The Meadow. It was based on a 1947 radio drama, which he later adapted into this short story, then after that eventually into a play. In this tale, Mr. Smith is an old, aging night watchman at a movie studio working in the back lot where they build the sets of towns and cities. For decades, he's watched this lot grow up in what used to be a meadow, and now it's in the process of being torn down and scrapped for the $2 million worth of lumber that was put into it and is no longer needed. When he's caught hammering away trying to put the sets back together before they come back to tear the rest of it down in the morning, the studio head is called, and they think this guy's nuts. They plan to have him arrested, but he's climbed to the top of the tower, and he convinces the studio head, Mr. Douglas, to come out and just to listen to him and to sort of hear his point of view on this place. So Mr. Douglas climbs up to the top, and Mr. Smith begins to talk. He describes how in this location, like no other location on Earth, you can go from Paris to San Francisco just by walking around the corner, and he shows how the back of a Buddhist temple might actually on the front be a bank in New York City, and just a collection of stories like this. And he describes how there's a reality of this place. He's walked it every night as a security officer, and he imagines himself with a cast of characters traveling instantly from place to place, and there's a certain reality to this place and a magic to it, and he believes that there's purpose to it, now that it's been built, and it should be saved and not torn down for the sake of progress. So it's a beautiful story, beautifully sentimental, I would say. However, it is a weak story. Basically what happens is we're introduced to the night watchman, sort of his idea of this place, and then they think he's mad, and they call the studio security to come and get him. But the studio head, Mr. Douglas, comes from a party and personally comes out himself, and he talks to him, and in the course of this very short conversation, he's convinced to, hold that thought. We're going to go get some cameras, maybe write a quick script, and going to use this place as a set for another movie. And it's neat, but it's just really not earned. It's not properly built up to, at least not effectively built up to, which is a rarity for Bradbury. Usually in a very short space of time, he's able to sort of go from 0 to 60 and get us where we're going. But he fails here. I think that's probably because this was previously a radio drama, and I just don't think it translated as well as it could have. But it's still beautiful. I mean, that is something. And at like 10 pages, what's the loss of giving it a shot anyway? But there are some interesting concepts going on, some things to take away from this story. One of them is studio detachment from the art. I think this is a very relevant thing today. These big Hollywood $200 million blockbusters, and they're products to the studio. The studio was a business, yada, 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 and there's still creative personalities involved, but ultimately when these executives at the top are making these decisions, they have stockholders in mind, and there's a lack of attachment, I would say, to these works of art. However, for fans, realities are created. These are real things to fans in a way. Not that we think they're real, as in real world, but the fandom that springs up around these things, these places, is real. Tatooine and Hoth and Endor and Naboo and Coruscant and all these Star Wars locations have deep meaning to the fans. And I think studios have a way of their detachment. Detachment is useful in avoiding sentimentality, but needs to be understood that what they create has a powerful impact on the fans. And I think that message is being shown here, where this studio head has spent millions of dollars creating this sort of wonderland, and he's tearing it down. But, you know, if you had filmed The Wizard of Oz there, it's, you know, it has an importance beyond just being the set of where that film was filmed. And also, sort of a lesser, sort of a minor theme going on here is unity. We feel like the world is big, and this idea of this city that is all cities, all crammed into one location on this back lot, sort of shrinks it all down to where Paris and San Francisco and New York and Tokyo and all these places are really, really close together. And it sort of exposes the fact that the Earth is not that big. We are all relatively close to each other, all confined and stuck to this one pale blue dot in the universe, or in the solar system. And I think it's sort of this small underlying message that night watchmen and studio executives, writers, directors, actors, even the guys who were paid to tear down the sets, we're all in it together. And it's not really a big world after all, and we are all sort of connected, and the studio environment here is sort of a microcosm of that whole situation that we find ourselves in every day. If I were to apply it to today's news, this coronavirus thing is going on, and there's people who have yet to be personally touched by it, and because they haven't had someone die, for example, maybe they have a hard time understanding that it's real, you know what I mean? And whereas for the person who has already experienced that loss, then it is real. So it's very easy for whatever the situation may be it racial, gender, war, different nationalities, all these different things going on, these sort of opposing parties in the world. It's easy to forget that you're all in the same boat together. And I think this story sort of vaguely hints at that as being part of the mixture. All right, guys, rambled a little bit there. Sorry about that. This review was of the Meadow, a 1953 short story based on a 1947 radio drama by Ray Bradbury. Not a bad tale, not a great tale. But you know what? It didn't take long to read, so no loss there. Up next, the Kilimanjaro device. Subscribe, tune in and see what that is all about. In the meantime, give this video a thumbs up, leave a positive comment if you have a positive comment to leave, and I'll see you again soon.